Greetings from the City of Brotherly Love. I am Fernando Mendez, host of the Round Table. We invite you to listen to our discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news. Amigos oyentes de USARA Radio, están escuchando la mesa redonda de Round Table desde la ciudad del amor fraternal. From the City of Brotherly Love, les habla Fernando Méndez. Pastor Phil Fisher at the controls. Javier Suarez is our special guest today. He's the Vice President of Strategic Partnership at Greater Philadelphia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And here he is. Javier. Hello.
Hello, Fernando. Good to see you. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Finally,
Yes.
Just full disclosure, Javier and I, we have known each other for decades, a few decades.
You don't have to reveal our age, Fernando, please.
Well, we're not children. I knew you when you had hair and when my hair was black.
That about sums it up.
Also, I was a very good friend of, I'm still a good friend of Javier's dad. And say hello to him whenever you see him.
I certainly will. Thank you.
He's a great singer performer, and we made an acquaintance early on. In fact, at the time in which, this will date me, late 80s, when we started the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in Philadelphia, with the help of Angel Ortiz, Candelario Lamboy, Andrew Gay he drew up the statutes for the Hispanic Chamber, and look where we are today.
In 2020, the Chamber celebrated its 30th anniversary, and we were fortunate that we were able to actually host our gala. It was 1 month right before the shutdown of COVID-19, so it was a memorable opportunity to celebrate all of that.
So, Javier, now back to reality. Here we are, post-COVID, supposedly, but in the midst of a variant of COVID, the Delta variant, which has also inflicted pain on mostly on the business community at this point. People are dying, for sure, but right now, anywhere I go, business people complain, how long can we do this? How can we continue? And it's a legitimate question. Because we have done everything possible, many of us anyway, except for Florida and Texas, where the governors insisted on the stupid decisions. But here we are, Javier. So how is the Chamber helping the community with this COVID fight?
The whole COVID situation has been an incredible opportunity for everyone to really see perhaps the gaps and the problems that the business community might have been experiencing well before the pandemic. What the COVID-19 has really done is just put a spotlight on it. And I am glad to see that at least the business community, and everyone else in the ecosystem of businesses recognizes that there's a lot of work to be done. The impact has been strong, it has been difficult. And the Chamber, with our leadership, beginning with Jennifer Rodriguez, our CEO and president, we've been working with many other organizations, paying attention to all of the changes and the opportunities to provide resources to businesses. Many have taken advantage of things like the PPP loans, and others haven't. So we know that there's work that still needs to happen in order for businesses to fully become aware of what's available to them. But we're also helping businesses regardless to come out of this situation that's been really difficult.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and I'm glad to read that a judge in Florida sort of undid the bad thing the governor did, which was ban masks. And George had just said that's an illegal order, and so
Well,
because
Fernando, it's difficult no matter what, and when there's this mixed messaging and this doubt that people are on this, on the side of trying to help people out, especially business owners, it's highly stressful, and that's really what we're experiencing with so many people that we talk to is just the uncertainty. How long is this going to last? What should I do? What should I not do? What do I tell my employees? It's just a plethora of questions that everyday business owners have, and in many ways the government and different agencies are helping out, and in other ways they're just getting in the way. So again, as bad as this is, all of this is being put out there for everyone to see, and I'm hoping that this brings more voices to the table to understand that you can't just take for granted that entrepreneurs just have everything on their side. They don't. They struggle. They have stresses. They have needs. They need resources, networks, all kinds of things. And I'm hoping that when we do come out of this, that there'll be a better understanding of how to all work together.
um, so has the chamber? I know you have. The chamber has helped in concrete ways with, guiding people towards economic resources, where to go for help. Um, More concrete help also in terms of vaccinations. Has the chamber helped to guide people towards where to get the vaccine, how to get the vaccine, who needs the vaccine, etc.
Yeah, more than anything else, we certainly support all of the organizations and agencies out there trying to get people to become more vaccinated. Whether it was that great effort that Esperanza put out there, and literally on their campus
Right,
to
right.
get vaccinated, and others as well. I think that that's probably the most important role that we can play, which is let's not add another layer to this. It's not within our mission to be involved in the health space. However, it is part of our mission to help our community to grow and prosper. And so we are always available to help support either initiatives or events or activities that move people to getting vaccinated.
Okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Too many chefs in the kitchen. So you're right that there's, but the role of the chamber in the business community is to sort of guide people towards resources, to help directly in any way you can with counseling. With, I mean, what are the services that the Hispanic Chamber offers the community?
Fernando, we offer the traditional services that chambers typically provide, whether it can be around technical assistance, you know, taking a deep dive into certain areas of how to manage and grow your business. But for the chamber, we were already pre-pandemic underway with a different focus. And our focus was moving away from kind of generally helping out well performing, well informed business owners to really addressing the big problem of why Hispanic businesses that open more businesses than any other community seem to open businesses at a particular size and remain that size for the life of their business. That's a problem because it means that they lack the ability to hire people, to scale their businesses, to do business with other companies or organizations and expand. All of those things have incredible social and economic impacts that you might not be aware of. I don't mean you, Fernando, because you're so in touch with what's going on. I'm just talking about you, the community in general. It matters when our community doesn't grow and scale. It matters when they don't have the ability to hire people within their own communities, and on and on and on.
Hmm.
And so we've really buckled down and focused in on why this happens in the Hispanic community. And it simply isn't something that happens in Philadelphia. It happens nationwide. And so we have really look to provide services and programs to help business owners really get a handle to be able to manage their businesses and not just do what they're good at or what they like doing, but really having a handle across the board all of the main aspects of their business, from accounting, marketing, operations, HR, you name it. They've got to have a handle on these different areas because those areas affect every part of their business. So we have really, dug in deep, and now are offering very direct hand holding, if you will, to business owners, so that when they go through one of our programs, they walk away and they understand how to really manage their business and fill the gaps that exist within their businesses.
Could you pinpoint one specific problem with which you were able to identify that it was sort of common to all these small businesses?
Wow, that's the question of the day. Yes, absolutely. What we've learned about Hispanic businesses is that they tend to be isolated and segregated from resources and their own professional networks. What do I mean by that? A lot of businesses in our communities, they're often considered to be small, when in reality they're what we would call micro businesses, whereby the business owner is the business. That person has to do everything, and they end up almost not tackling all of the areas that make their business, again, from their accounting and their marketing, all different types of things, because they're just so busy taking care of the day to day. And so we are looking at basically moving people closer to resources that are available and often free. They're out there. In fact, there are many of them. But because the business owner is so stuck in their day, they don't have the time and the ability to look at all of the opportunities that exist so that they can join sessions or technical assistance or trainings that are so important. And the second is the Latino community. We tend to have professionals in our lives who are experts, whether it's an accountant, a CPA, a marketing person, an operations, again, all of these things. And so we're kind of making things up as we go along. And there's just too much that you need to learn, because you, as an entrepreneur, your job is to always learn. It's not just to be profitable. That's an outcome. But your goal should be, how can I learn more about my business in general? And how can I learn more about certain specific areas of my business that either I'm not that talented in, or I don't have a great interest in, but I can turn to someone who can mentor me or who can guide me so that I can make better decisions.
Yeah, great. That was a great answer. I mean, what I gathered, from my sort of a civilian point of view in that context, is that many, let's say, bodegueros and people who own small shops of any kind are content to just plow along. They make enough money to sustain themselves. They make enough money to pay their bills and keep going. And there's no horizon they're looking at that say, I'm going to expand. I'm going to make more money and maybe open another shop. There are few and few people in the community that have that kind of vision, and you can see them. You can almost identify them by name. Okay, I could.
Well, and that's a great word, because vision in the business community doesn't come simply from within. It comes from being very much involved in the ecosystem of your industry. If you are in the food space, well, do you belong to food industry organizations? Do you know your competitors? Do you know experts within that space? They're the ones that kind of push and pull on your ideas, and then all of a sudden your vision takes form. But if it's just simply living within your head and your efforts on a day-to-day, there's no real pathway for you to succeed. There's really no pathway for you to grow and scale, because you yourself don't have enough capacity during the day, and you just aren't connected well enough to the full ecosystem of your vision to really take it to the next level. And that's just so critical in our neighborhoods. And so by targeting specifically what we believe people need, business owners need, we're moving them towards getting to those resources and to those professional networks that allow them to really, get a good understanding of what's possible for them.
Yes, I mean, you and I have been involved in the media for a while. I mean, you were doing radio, as I recall. I've been in radio and television and back to radio in a different form. Um, and we do lack the community resources to to make it big, to have an impact. Is very difficult to because we have small media and small newspapers that, but the community newspapers actually survive somehow. So we have El Sol, we have Impacto that sort of changed hands and it's really thriving. We have Aldea, and so the irony is that the big guys sort of suffered a lot, and the small people, the small business survive in media anyway, struggling but survived.
One of the things that I do, yeah, I agree with that. And I would say that one of the things that I'd like to see is that the bigger boys maybe either partner or collaborate with the smaller ones and even decide that they're going to invest in them or bring them in as collaborators where content that readily isn't available at the general market level, they might be able to work with them. It seems like there's been growth and sometimes it feels like not much has changed.
Yes, yeah, that is true. It's as they say in French, de plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. Entre más cambia es lo mismo, ¿no?
Yeah.
Así que hemos ido por ciclos. We change, but we sort of end up in the same spot somehow. Well, we're going to take a brief pause here. Javier, you will understand that. We have to pay some bills. And estamos con Javier Suarez, de Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Les habla Fernando Méndez, Pastor Phil at the controls. We'll come back in 1 minute.
Había un niño que era muy sensible a luces y sonidos. Construía escondites donde no podían entrar. No le gustaba mirar a la gente a los ojos. Lo hacía sentir incómodo. Un día se descubrió que tenía autismo. Con ayuda, poco a poco, aprendió a vivir mejor con ello.
Mientras más pronto se diagnostique, mejor. Conoce las señales en autismspeaks.org.
Bueno, estamos de regreso aquí en USA la Radio. Les habla Fernando Méndez, nuestro invitado especial, Javier Suarez, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Pastor Phil at the controls. And we're talking about the role of the chamber in the community. And you have rather sort of, you have had an impact, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which, from its foundation, that was what we expected to help people, to sort of move the business community in a certain direction. But you have taken the chamber to a high degree of competence, and congratulations for that. And to your boss, I have to ask her to come back on my show.
Yeah, Jennifer was a real big factor for me to look at the chamber as maybe a great opportunity. So she's, I think, been on about a little more than 5 years at the chamber. And when she came on, I said, this is an opportunity. Let me talk to her. And she was more than gracious to hear me out. And here I am today, myself almost celebrating 5 years at the chamber. And, wanting to make an impact, it takes time. It sounds easy. It's not. Sometimes our community can make it hard. We're not always a community that is trustworthy of institutions. We often don't unite and come together when we know we should. And none of this comes through any malintent. It's just, people are busy and people are running their businesses. But the chamber cannot do its job, by itself. It's not an organization that's designed to figure it all out and then you just knock on our door and take advantage of whatever's available to you. It really is about a relationship. Um, Everyone can say, I want to grow, I want to make more money, but it's hard for us to do unless we know exactly how your business is running and what your weaknesses are so that we can strengthen you. So under Jennifer's leadership, I think we've taken that approach of looking at really what are the gaps, and then designing the efforts of the chamber to really help out our community.
Yeah, we were speaking about Jennifer Rodriguez, who is the CEO of the Hispanic Chamber. Yeah, I would like to invite her to come back on my show. She was one time before. Yeah, you're right. You cannot move. You need to pull together. You cannot sort of jalar el vagón solito, ¿no? Hace falta la ayuda. You need help to contribute.
Yeah, and I will say this, that other we've made many different commitments as far as helping businesses, but we just made one that's recent, and I guess it's going to be announced here on your show for the first time, and that is that we've left our Center City offices and now moved to El Concilio. We now have our offices there, so we're in North Philadelphia. We're partnering with another a nonprofit, and making ourselves as accessible as we can be, to really eliminate any barriers that might be geographic or language or anything like that, to make sure that we're really where business owners need us to be.
Yeah, I'm sure you're aware of the fact that when we started the chamber, we were on Fifth and Allegheny at the offices of Andrew Gay, the lawyer, and he was.
I was just but a fly on the wall, Fernando.
You're back in the neighborhood. So no, that's also more than symbolic. It's a statement saying we're here and we're not in Center City, away from the action, from the hub.
Right.
Speaking of, so I know the bodegueros have had some trouble over the years, sort of keeping up, and there was some incidents even with the police and all that stuff. So, like, how are they doing nowadays? What do we know about what's happening in that community?
Thankfully, these businesses are really important to local communities, for all the reasons we already know. They're accessible, they're close by, they often offer products that people need and want. Overall, they're okay, but there are individual situations and cases where it feels like they're under a tremendous amount of pressure, whether it's city services, permits and licenses, the ability to offer food at a competitive price, and for their communities. They put in long hours.
Sure.
And I'm not really sure that they're respected to the level that they should. They're running a business, and they're trying to do so in the environment, which is COVID-19. They needed to remain open while people went to their businesses,
Right.
and I rarely hear that that even the local media in Philadelphia kind of looks to them to say, hey, what's the temperature out there, right, of your community? I think they're an afterthought. And they kind of sometimes represent, low income communities, when I see them as businesses, with business owners who are trying to grow, to provide for their families, to do so many different things. And so they've been impacted. There's no doubt about that. The cost of goods has gone up, and they obviously have to pass that on to already lower income communities sometimes that couldn't afford it in the first place, and now they have to pass these things on. It's a plethora of issues that they have to deal with, and I have to say they're incredibly resilient, and we should be treating them with respect and with the credit they deserve as being businesses that, despite any conditions, they move forward.
Yes, I agree with you, and not only COVID. I mean, they have problems with security and whatnot. So it's not an easy thing to maintain a business in the community. And hats off to them who are able to do it. As you say, they deserve more recognition, and maybe we'll get somebody who represents them to come and speak to us about that. Well, Javier, how do you see the near future? And now that, let's say, schools are opening, whether or not many parents don't want it to happen, but I mean, it's happening. And with masks on and all that, and teachers are finally, at least some of the membership in the organizations of teachers have said they agree. We will use masks. Because initially there was some opposition from teachers saying like, I'm not going to walk into an environment where I don't feel safe. But now with the mask requirement and more vaccinations, I think that would be the key, to get as many people vaccinated as possible. So how do you see the near future with this?
I'm positive about it. I guess I'm concerned more about the economics of businesses and how they're going to come out of this. Were they mortally impacted by the effects? Are they just hanging on for dear life, or are some of them really going to look at their businesses and go, okay, I've got to get my act together. I can no longer be the sole person that figures it out. I need to have a plan for my business. I think that, businesses are going to follow the guidelines that the city provides in regards to health and safety. I'm not seeing any major issues around that, although you can have all kinds of people who are going to agree and disagree with whatever decision is made. My hope is that, again, business owners say, I don't want to just go back to the way things were, because even pre-pandemic, businesses were struggling. And so I'm trying to take away a positive spin to all of this and saying, maybe it took a pandemic for business owners to realize that there are resources out there and that they cannot shy away from them. They've got to get connected to professionals and networks that will help them, to resources that are often provided at no cost, and be a part of a community of entrepreneurs rather than thinking that everyone around you is your competitor. They're always going to be your competitor. Everything is your competitor, from the weather to the economics. But honestly, you could probably learn a lot more from your competitor than anyone else. So I'm positive, or hopeful, I should say, that people will take advantage of what this pandemic has dropped on us, and said, I'm going to go through a refresh. I'm going to take another look at how I'm running my business. And wherever I see issues or gaps, I'm going to address them.
I don't know if you're going to have any more time. I mean, we're reaching the half hour here now. I don't know if you can stay with us, or
I'll stay a few more minutes if that's okay with you.
Oh, absolutely. If you could hang another 15 minutes, that'd be great.
Let's do it.
One question. Now that we know this $1 trillion economic package that has been approved, and I mean still in the works, but basically there will be some money available. How will that affect your distribution or your access to that fund? Do we have any of that money coming to us through the state or city government, or just directly to the business community?
Any resources that come from the state or the government, we are on top of it. And we've got, although we're a tiny staff, we've got incredibly wonderful, committed people on it. And, including people that follow the policies and the different decisions that are made. And so businesses can turn to us for any of those decisions, and we can guide them to the resources. We don't distribute funds. We don't have the decision-making abilities for all of that, but we are completely informed and connected to where they come from, and so that we can help guide businesses wherever they need to go.
how is the chamber supported money wise?
We are supported by grants, specifically from the City of Philadelphia, the Commerce Department. We also create initiatives and events that are sponsored by the local corporate community here that embrace our mission. So uh, that's basically it. Through grants and sponsorships, we fight for those grants and sponsorships in order to do our work. We try to make everything that we do accessible to everyone. In fact, for the longest time, a membership to the chamber might have been a few $100s. Now it's $69 a year. We have it takes time to be able to offer that low cost to people because we have serious expenses that we have to pay for, including staff. So we're funded primarily by grants and sponsorship.
Yeah, well, yeah, and obviously grants are a variable. No, not always able to get every grant that comes down the pike, but
No, and the demand for nonprofits, is really high right now because again, we're not the only nonprofit reevaluating the work that we're doing and doubling down to make sure that we provide service during the pandemic and beyond. And so it's a very, very active space right now where those organizations and that provide grants, they're looking at everything as well. And so I think those organizations that are well entrenched, well organized, are the ones that can continue their work and really advance their work.
yeah, and I know we talk about the fact that you cannot be all things to all people,
No.
but there are things like the issue of of COVID, where you actually have to get involved because there is a need for information and so on. Likewise, for something that is a bit political, which is the voting rights, and is the chamber in any way helping people with information about vote, about the census, and so on? Because actually, we have grown. The Hispanic community grew in comparison with the 2010 census to the 2020 census. I believe it was some growth in the Hispanic community.
We have grown, and this is timely because the census has kind of been coming out over the last days and weeks with information, and it is important that we support all of the initiatives to make voting accessible, and that all the nonsense that goes on there politically, we try to help out and support because it's a right for every American citizen. But we also look at it from an economic standpoint, which is that, the Hispanic population in Philadelphia remains challenged. I believe it's anywhere between 38 and 40% of the Hispanic population in Philadelphia lives in poverty. And so voting is one of those areas that fits along all of the other areas that have to work hand in hand to figure things out. Because as I said earlier, businesses shouldn't look to just profitability, but the ability to scale so that they can hire people. Our people within our communities need to look to Hispanic businesses, not just to be successful profitably, but successful so that they can hire. We cannot continue to be a city that has such a high level of poverty and expect that services are going to be readily available, that everyone is going to be able to just move forward with no barriers. Employment is such a critical factor for communities to move forward. And so our work is in supporting local businesses so that they can hire. And so voting and health and economics, they all go hand in hand to healthy communities. And so although we might not be driving people to the polls or that, because that's not our role, we stay as objective as we can be. We do understand that we need to be support of organizations who are making sure or ensuring that voting is accessible and it remains the right that it is.
Yeah, you mentioned Esperanza, and they have been very active in all these issues, with the vote, with COVID, and so on. I think that it's a great outfit that has been helping us. You say you moved to Concilio. your
That's right.
headquarters in Concilio now. So I suppose that move was motivated by being actually a decision to be in the community, to be more in touch, as a matter of image of the chamber, sort of living where it belongs in a way. So,
Yeah, it was a decision that had been talked about for a while. I think the pandemic accelerated the decisions. We were looking at maybe having satellite offices. We were looking at different opportunities, and the idea of collaborating with another nonprofit just made complete sense. And we're just thrilled that we're in North Philadelphia, that we're with a well-respected organization like Concilio. Their offices are wonderful. They've got all different types of venues, and we plan on using them, whether it's classrooms or the main salon, the main hall there, so that we can host events. And then team up with different initiatives that Concilio has underway and that we have underway. So yeah, there were different factors. And then it takes time, right? Because you're under a particular lease, you're under contract. So even if you wanted to leave, then from on a particular date, you have to live up to your obligations and your contracts. And so we had to wait it out to a degree.
yeah, if you just tune in, we are in a conversation with Javier Suarez from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and it's the chamber has been playing a more definite role in the community. I mean, obviously, I can sense that, and as you say, you had a celebration in 2020 in spite of COVID. No, you held your gala. So, are you planning to hold the gala again in the near future?
The hope is that in 2022 we will, but and even though we are making different planning decisions right now, because we know people ask us all the time, so it's an event that people look forward to. But we'll follow all the health and safety guidelines, and if it just doesn't make sense, we won't do it. We didn't host it this year, and we know that people are itching to get together again and network. But we'll do it as soon as we can.
Well, we are in the midst of a crisis right now, sort of getting out of Afghanistan, and there are soldiers coming to, their bodies coming to Washington, and the president could be seen sort of expressing his regret about the loss of so many lives. 13 service people that came back. So we should mention that here, because it happened. But we're also in the midst of the effects of a hurricane that did a lot of damage to New Orleans, and it's coming our way apparently. So are we ready for the hurricane?
I believe. Well, I think it'll be rains.
The rain. It's been downgraded to a storm.
And even if it doesn't hit us directly, or these things hit us directly, they provide stress. You turn on the TV and you go, wow, you look at all the heartache and destruction. And so I guess I'll use that news to say again, this is why we're all reevaluating everything and how we do things, because we're now realizing that we need to be more resilient as a community, but as a business community, we need to be more resilient. And the only way to be that way is to, again, be organized, be able to manage your businesses, create relationships that are in your industry. A lot of times our small business owners or our micro business owners will say, when I get to a particular level, that's when I'll go out and meet people and join. No, you need to do it from day one. It's not about, where you're at in society. It's your business, and your business needs attention even before you open up those doors. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that successful businesses always have these common threads, and that is that they are well informed, well organized, and they're connected to their industry. They're expanding their networks. All of these things contribute to the health of their businesses, and so you want to do it from day one. So again, they also help to bring balance to people's lives. We know that small business owners, are under a lot of stress because their businesses demand a lot of time and energy, and so do their families. And so the more organized you are, the better decisions you can make. And everything becomes a lot more worthwhile because you're not harming one side of your life for the sake of another. Your family shouldn't be taking a hit because you've got to be at your business. There's ways to get around it, and there are resources to help you make better decisions.
Yeah, in terms of taking a hit, we saw the service industry where so many Hispanics work taking a big hit. The restaurant industry, which has always been sort of an entryway for many immigrants, took a big hit with the restaurants, and that's a concern right now with this new version of COVID, that to be still in the same situation.
It is because the hospitality industry isn't just a key economic force for Philadelphia in general. It is for our community as well. Whether you're running a restaurant, a hair salon, a bodega, you're making food, your distribution, your catering, whatever the case may be, there are a lot of businesses in that space, and they're under tremendous amount of stress just to stay alive. Unfortunately, we know a bunch of businesses that didn't make it. And the hope was that the worst case scenario was going to be that they were going to shut down because it would just made more sense to just not be open,
Right.
but they're never going to come back. And so early on, we made the decision at the chamber that we were going to help businesses find a way to create a new revenue stream or expand the ones that they had so that they weren't so dependent on just one revenue stream, and then make the decision that they needed to shut down and say, I'm just going to wait it out. That's not a good plan. You can run your business. Obviously, everyone is making shifts and changes and pivoting to different things. But when you have relationships with organizations, you can learn about what opportunities exist so that you can stay operational. Why is this so important? Because once you shut down or slow down, it's hard to pick it back up. Think of all the people that once you want to get going, you need help and employees. They've moved on. They've gone somewhere else.
That's
They're
right.
not going to wait for you because they have families to feed. And even the ones that have done well, or I should say that have made it through the pandemic, they have staffing issues. They have supply issues. They have cost issues, operational hours issues. It's just across the board. Staying open and managing your business through the pandemic for us was one of the things that we wanted to stress and make sure that we provided information and resources for people to do that, because we understood early on that if you shut down, it will be even harder to open up. First of all, we didn't know when things were going to open up, and look, we're still in this mess. But when you do decide to open up again, it would be much harder.
Yeah, many restaurants manage to open service outdoors, and sort of improvised structures. Do you know if the city will allow them to continue?
There's a lot of discussion around that. Other cities have it, namely New York, obviously, to try to make it a permanent thing. And so, yeah, there's discussion now to see how that would happen. But I think that there's still a wait and see, because you have certain streets where in Center City where you could find 4 or 5 in one block,
Yes.
or a matter of just a few blocks, and it's not just about that business. I mean, people live downtown. How will it affect traffic? How will it affect the ability for trucks to come and drop off their merchandise? So I think that elected officials are still looking at and seeing all the different ramifications for having all of this. I think what's important is that before there was this decision, no, you can't eat out on the sidewalk, you can't do this. And I think there's more of an understanding now that, we got to see how we can help businesses thrive regardless of good or bad times.
Yeah, this outdoor dining, it's been a tradition in Europe for centuries, and we just discovered it, and I hope we can sustain it.
We haven't seen a lot of activity in our communities, and there are reasons for that as well. Whether it's the ability to have, some funds available to invest in creating these structures.
Right.
There's security. There is the insurance. There's all kinds of things that go into this, and the individual decisions of, is it worth it? A lot of the bigger restaurants, they know that they can be there throughout the day, every day. Maybe that's something that's not as readily available to Latino businesses. And so they sometimes make the decision saying, it's not worth it. I'll just offer takeout and delivery and try to see my way through it.
Yeah, that was one way in which many restaurants survived with a takeout and delivery.
Yeah.
I know
Which is why, let me put a shameful plug here, which is why we started the Dine Latino program and our restaurant week. And we started this in 2020 as a direct response to businesses, at least in dining, being completely shut down.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2020, we started Restaurant Week, and it was an amazing experience. We had over 20 different restaurants that participated. We did it again this past spring and decided to collaborate with other organizations to get the word out and to get more restaurants to join the effort. And now we have our fall campaign happening, where from October 11th to October 15th, we will once again be hosting Restaurant Week. Anything that I've mentioned today, you can go on our website and you can find out anything about it. And for any business owners listening today, or restaurant owners, if you want to be a part of the Restaurant Week, just go on our website and contact us. Our doors are open, and we'd love to have you participate.
It's not a shameless plug. That's what we're here for. We find out what you're doing. How are you working? So
yeah, there you go.
That's great information. October 11 is a Restaurant Week.
So it'll take place during the latter part of Hispanic Heritage Month.
Okay.
So it also gives us time, because a lot of organizations contact us and we support them as well. So in the end, we want to close things out, hopefully, where people are trying out new foods, different tastes, and different experiences, because we're not only promoting Hispanic restaurants within our communities, but we're also asking people outside of our communities to look to all the different Latino diverse choices that are out there for food, and give us a chance, give us a shot.
Well, Javier, thank you very much for joining us today. And I know that your organization is doing a great job. Congratulations for all you're doing, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Fernando. As always, a pleasure to speak with you.
And please come back. I will insist that you come back and give us more information.
Very good. I'm gonna, hopefully when I come back, I'm gonna have my beard look like yours. You look very distinguished, and I'm trying to achieve that look.
Thank you. Maybe I'll run for senator now.
There you go.
Thank you, Javier.
Thank you, Fernando. Take care.
Señores oyentes de USA La Radio, we have been with Javier Suarez from the Chamber of Commerce, talking about many issues. Muchas gracias por su sintonía. Regresamos en un minuto. We'll come back in 1 minute. Greetings from the city of brotherly love. I am Fernando Mendez, host of the Round Table. We invite you to listen to our discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news. Señores oyentes de USA La Radio, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda de Round Table. Les habla Fernando Méndez. Estuvimos en una conversación con Javier Suarez from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Very informative, very interesting, and hoping to have him come back for a return appearance. In the meantime, for anybody who's a soccer aficionado, the big news in soccer. Cristiano Ronaldo, the superstar. He transfers to former club Manchester United from Juventus. And so that's a tremendous notice, a great move. And it's the big news in the sports world today, at least for those of us who are listening to soccer news. Um, whether it's Messi or Ronaldo or Gareth Bale or any of these huge stars. I mean, soccer uh, is a world, it's truly a world sport. So when we have a World Cup, it really means a lot. Speaking of World Cup, we have the Unity Cup in Philadelphia, and we're going to have as our guest. So stay with us on Wednesday. Our guest is Bill Salvatore, and he will be speaking to us about the Unity Cup that is taking place this year. The Unity Cup was an invention of Mayor Kenny, and he promoted it and funded it, and it's we have the participation at last count, the last time I knew anything about what was going on, of more than 32 countries, and I'm sure Bill Salvatore will update us on the number of countries participating, which at this point I believe is more than 40 countries. What it is a competition, it's soccer competition, which people from each country put together a team and they compete against each other. And believe it or not, some of the small countries have had a bigger impact than, say, Argentina or Mexico, which we would expect to dominate. So we have had Salvador and Costa Rica and other smaller countries have a big impact in this competition, this cup. So that's sort of news on the positive side. On the bad side, we actually have not so good news about, and this is still again another effect of having had Donald Trump as president. And remember when he stood and announced that at a microphone that the people on both sides of a riot, the good people and the I don't know what to call them, the terrorists, I guess, they were good people on both sides, because this man has no conscience and no ethical, moral rules, moral boundaries. So the Proud Boys clashed with Antifa in Portland. So that's the big news, is that the Proud Boys, you can see them, there's video of them, armed to the teeth, dressed like military people, and being confronted by Antifa members. In the meantime, the police sort of stayed out of the fray, and the internet was full of sort of sarcastic comments that the Proud Boys, the police did not intervene because they had to go back home to change their outfits from the Proud Boys to the police uniforms. So that is probably not true, but it's pretty funny, because that's the rumor is that there are many members of the police force that are supporters of the Proud Boys and other such groups. So that's we'll see what we're expecting now to see the results of this. The House having approved this 3.5 trillion budget blueprint. The Congress has approved, and it sort of sets the stage for Democrats to enact Joe Biden's ambitious economic agenda. And This, if in full force, it should have the same effect that the New Deal had during the Roosevelt government. It would have a tremendous impact on every aspect of our economy, every aspect of our lives, infrastructure, jobs, education, healthcare, you name it. So that's well, it passed the House of Representatives with a vote of 220 to 212, with no Republican support. Are we surprised? There's no Republican support for anything that makes sense. I am surprised, though, that some people who had, in public at least, seem to be sympathetic to a proposal that is mostly from the Democrats. Some Republicans, I don't know, I wonder what happened there, because there should have been at least half a dozen or more Republicans supporting this. But are they so afraid of the repercussions? Are they so afraid of this lame duck in Mar-a-Lago? He's not even a lame duck. He's not. He's lame. Anyway, I don't understand that. Why can't they vote their conscience? I mean, we know that many Republicans actually have been vaccinated. Mitch McConnell supports vaccination. We can be certain that many of these people who are expressing public opposition to the vaccine, many of these Republicans, are vaccinated. They're just not willing to tell the public that they have done something against Donald Trump. Even Donald Trump got booed. Okay, and this is an example of what Frankenstein's monster. He created this anti-vaccine movement, anti-mask movement, and now that he's sort of paying lip service to it, he got booed for saying that people should vaccinate themselves. There is another issue here. A spokesperson for these religious leaders across the country, these evangelicals who also cannot find their conscience. A spokesperson who even in a mild way expressed support for vaccinations in an interview in MSNBC. He got fired. He got fired from the organization because the leaders, these religious leaders, didn't agree with his point of view. And all he was saying was that he was not opposed, that he would be open to the idea of people getting vaccinations if that's what they desire to do. But that caused an uproar among the leadership in the Christian community, in the leadership of these churches, and so he's out. Another, perhaps, will be the final segment today to talk about the census. Hispanic and Asian Americans are driving the U.S. population growth. Population shifts revealing the 2020 census herald changes to come in U.S. politics as the country becomes more diverse, according to the experts. The number of Americans who identify as white, okay, it's a very important number, has fallen below 60%. So that among that number, think about this. Among that number, I would say millions of these people voted for Donald Trump. I don't think Trump had a great support among Blacks, Hispanics, Asians. So the bulk of his vote had to come from the white community, which now, according to the census, has fallen below 60%. And so that illustrates one of the fears of this white majority, because they are still a majority, even though by a smaller margin. The fears of this white population that the country is becoming too brown. We, Latin Americans and Asians and Blacks, are changing the color of this country. And that is what instill fear in the white population, who have been dominant in industry, in government, in all kinds of business, because the future of this country actually is in the hands of minorities, Blacks, Hispanics, Asians. The American landscape has changed, and so what we need right now is, as we grow in numbers, we also should grow in power. We should have more of our people in government to sort of stop what we see right now happening across the country in wherever the legislatures are controlled by Republicans. We see these draconian laws passed to stop the vote, to stop us from voting. And they have done everything possible. Gerrymandering, sort of changing the shape of districts in order to change the population. And with that final comment, we say goodbye for today. Muchas gracias por su sintonía en el día de hoy. Se despide Fernando Méndez, Pastor Phil at the controls. Los esperamos hasta la próxima.